Hello, Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce members. This is Drew Kamp, President and CEO of the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce for our April 8th weekly legislative update video. I want to start off by just prefacing the fact that there's a few key items that still are hanging out there for the legislature to address prior to them being able to adjourn this session. And it should be no surprise that it is some of the tax issues that remain. One tax issue being that 3/8 cent sales tax increase using the local option sales tax to fund outdoor recreation and natural resources that Senator Dawson is pushing. Also tax 2.0, which really cleans up some of the pieces that weren't included in their larger tax reform proposal earlier this session, really addresses some of those credits, deductions, things along those lines that they think could be updated to kind of reflect their usage and how timely they remain to be. So that's something they continue to look at. Plus, it's important to note those are some pay-fors, obviously, that could create some revenue for some of those expenditures that are associated with some of the other tax reform changes that were made. So that's one thing to watch very closely that's still holding up some of the conversations. The last one is appropriations. Obviously, that's something that's always going to be kind of discussed a lot. I believe there's 11 total appropriations bills that have to ultimately be determined before they can adjourn the session. And that means obviously the House and the Senate have to be in agreement before it can be sent to the governor, who then has 30 days to sign it, veto it, whatever she decides to do for final consideration. But one thing that's new this week that we just found out that could possibly push us back a little bit, all signs were pointing to, as I had said for the last few weeks, that they would try to be out and could very likely be out by this coming Thursday on a Holy Thursday. But now what we're hearing is the Senate has kind of has decided to start doing their own appropriations bills, which obviously kind of takes them down and back a step. So that could slow down the process a little bit and take them past that, and even potentially past that April 19th targeted adjournment date when their per diems end. And that's the 100th day of session. And on the second session of any General Assembly, it's 100 days versus the 110 in the first General Assembly for which they receive a per diem and such. So that's something that's worth noting. We'll continue to keep a close eye on what are some of those biggest sticking points, what needs to be worked out. Obviously, that's going to be a big determining factor as to how things go for the rest of this session. Another piece on a positive kind of specific policy area that I wanted to touch on in some of those proposals is the airports bill. There was an aircraft and just an aircraft maintenance and sales general sales tax exemption that was brought forth by Senator Dawson a couple weeks ago in the Senate. It passed early in March. It just passed the House this week with the leadership of Brent and Charlie, both on that subcommittee. And then Chairman Hine in the House Ways and Means Committee was the sponsor of the bill and really walked it through the process, the manager. But Brent and Charlie were very, very much instrumental in getting that passed. And I believe it passed 98-0. So that was something that was very happy to see. And you don't always see that when you're looking as far as that level of bipartisan support, especially when it has something to do with tax. So we were happy to see that. Port authorities, not as much a good news kind of piece. So really the issue that is holding it up is twofold. One, it's the Ways and Means Chair, Lee Hine, obviously has to set a subcommittee and have a conversation regarding the bill before it can be passed by the subcommittee, brought to the full House Ways and Means to be passed, to then be put on the unfinished business and debate calendar for the House. That hasn't happened yet. They haven't had a subcommittee. They haven't done anything. He's kind of sitting on that bill for a multitude of reasons, one of which the Farm Bureau is not fully supportive of it. But that's something that we've worked really hard on throughout the session, as you're all aware of. We got the very quick and swift support in the Senate. Thanks once again to Senator Dawson for that. Brent and Charlie have both been very much helpful in the House. Brent has really, and the majority party, been working with Chairman Hine and the Farm Bureau and others to try to work through the differences. So I want to credit him for that and really show an appreciation for his efforts there. We don't know for sure what the future looks like, but it's very much is probably going to be one of those where it's a late in session kind of bargaining chip, or leadership really pushing that it has to get done. So we're going to continue to prime the pump and do what we need to do to try to make that a reality, as that's an important piece of legislation for our community in particular. Another piece that's really getting a lot of attention as well is the ESAs, the school choice, the vouchers for that public money following children to private institutions for education. It's a major concern for our local school districts, rightfully so. There's a lot of money, millions of dollars at stake for the community. for those folks who would otherwise go, say, to homeschool or to St. Albert's or to Heartland Christian, whatever that might look like. So rightfully so, the leadership of our local school districts are very concerned by that. We have been told that the House does not have an interest or support to pass that bill, I should say. And that's something we'll continue to monitor and work with our school administrators and leadership on, because obviously that's an important piece and they're an important partner for all that we do. With regards to workforce bills, the unemployment bill, that continues to be a sticking point. That 1 week waiting period is really a big sticky issue between the House and the Senate. Senate wants it, House doesn't. We'll see if something gets fixed and settled on by the end of session. It is a governor's priority, one of the governor's priority bills to get done by the end of session. Other workforce bills include the trucker tort reform, the code-based changes, and Med-Mal. All of those have quite an uphill battle to try to get done. Obviously, they could be part of a bargaining at the end of session, but their prospects are unfortunately not very high right now, as the reading in the tea leaves on those bills. With regards to quality of life and tourism grants, so we had been talking over and over the last few months that there was going to be some ARPA funds being made available, similar to what they've done for housing and broadband and some of these other individual areas to really target some areas of need throughout the state. The governor this week, on Wednesday, I believe it was, just announced that there's $100 million, which is more actually than we thought it was going to be, $100 million in placemaking funds that are going to be made available to Iowa communities starting in May for the application periods. We've had some good conversations with some folks here in the community. We have a pretty good idea of what some good opportunities might be for those, and we're really excited to bring forth some applications and try to do some things that are really going to positively impact the community. And what's so important to note with placemaking is it has an integral and direct tie-in to workforce and talent attraction and retention and population growth. So that's something we really look forward to working on with some of our key partners to get a great application in and work with Debbie Durham and her dynamic team at the state to help move those forward. With regards to the Iowa caucuses, as I've mentioned in past weeks, the Republican Party very much committed to Iowa being first in the nation. Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Party, not so much. We continue to have conversations at the Iowa Chamber Alliance table as to what we need to do to positively impact that. They're ongoing. We really do have we're putting a plan in motion as to what we think we need to do to not only support the individuals from Iowa that are speaking on our behalf to this steering committee of sorts that are going to help make this ultimate decision of what the early voting looks like within the DNC. So that's something we're going to continue to do to not only try to put some monetary power behind, but also try to put some just overall expertise and knowledge behind. We have a lot of knowledge, expertise, experience, very good testimonials, and just people who can really speak to the impact of those on a variety of different ways, as you know, within the chamber world, within presidents, CEOs, and public policy folks. So we really do we're going to plan to leverage those as best we can, as well as some of our key partners and stakeholders. One of the things we continue to hear from the party is that Iowa lacks diversity. They don't show the electorate as to what we see in the future. So those are things we're obviously taking into account as we have those conversations as well. And I'll just continue to keep folks apprised of how those conversations develop and what kind of progress we're making, because as everyone can agree, whether it's not a partisan issue whatsoever at this point, it is simply down to the fact that this has a major economic impact on the state of Iowa. It's a huge it's a big recognition for the state to be the first in the nation in this regard. So the last thing we want to do is lose that. And we are in a united front on chambers across the state with a variety of different ideologies being represented at that. And just to reference and stress again, it is not an ideological issue. It is not a partisan issue. It is simply the right thing to do for the state because of the economic impact that it has. It just so happens to be it's the Democratic Party we're working with rather than the Republicans in this case. With that, I will end our legislative update for the week of April 8th. As always, I want to thank you for your support of the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce and our public policy programming. This is something we're so happy to be able to provide you and advocate on your behalf. If there's ever anything we can do to try to be of assistance or help you in these efforts, or just try to grow your business in general, please feel free to reach out to us. We have a great team here at the Chamber, and we're always happy to help. So thank you for watching, and have a nice rest of the day.